Hello, everyone, and welcome to Government Cheese Time, brought to you by the Anti-Watch Watch Club. The Anti-Watch Watch Club is a 501c3 charity that utilizes a drop-style culture to support law enforcement, first responder, veteran and military programs to help provide all kinds of things. And they do it through cool stuff like the flag behind me, some cool Nalgene bottles, all different kinds of swag, shorts, rash guards, stickers, slaps, whatever you want to call them, cool coins. We invite you to go check them out at antiwatchclub.org. And I have with me Cody from AWWC. How you doing, Cody?
I'm good, Jason. How are you doing, brother?
Man, doing okay. We're here today to talk with so Sam and Emmett from Forscher Watches. They've been nice enough to grace us with their president to come on. We'd like to have it's going to be less a commercial and more just a nice little watch chat with the gentlemen, find out about Forscher Watches, what they got going on, their watch enthusiasm. And that's about it, right?
That's it. It's going to be just a conversation of four dudes who are at a bar drinking bourbon and just talking watches, talking shop.
This is not bourbon though. This is coffee, but maybe bourbon later. But yeah.
Bourbon.
All right, guys.
Sure.
Without further ado, let's get Emmett and Sam on the stream. Emmett, Sam, welcome.
Hey, how
Government
are you?
Cheese Time.
Thanks for having us.
Oh, no problem. Thanks for taking time out of your day to come join us.
Yeah, definitely. Especially Emmett is all the way across the pond from us, so he is almost.
It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It's nearly bourbon time, but not yet.
See, there you go. Almost happy hour for you.
Yeah.
We still got a ways to go. Please do.
Absolutely.
Well, in a customary government cheese time tradition, we will start with a wrist check, and then we'll start from the bottom right, which would be Emmett, since we'll let the guests go first. Emmett, what's on your wrist today?
Today, Breitling Navitimer. It's about 10 years old, and I've had it for quite a while. It's one of my favorite watches, and next to me, of course, can't not plug our own product.
Oh, nice.
So, exactly.
One of my favorite daily wears.
Awesome. How about you, Sam?
This is one of the Hewitt ones. This is a prototype that Emmett, myself, and Ian are working on. So it's
nice.
Another military-inspired one, more the vintage ones that we're working with. It's a CV2, so this one happens to be a 55 fathom style. So as you see on our site, we've got that reissued piece. So that's kind of one of those weird passion projects that Emmett and I and Ian works on. So, yeah.
Oh, nice.
Very cool.
Passion projects are always the best.
Yes.
Yeah, this whole thing is a passion project.
Yeah.
I sometimes wonder about my sanity.
Yeah, don't worry. We're in the same boat at AWWC. We're like, what are we doing? If it works, okay, great.
Yeah, you guys are doing good stuff. Just stay the fight, man. Just stay the fight. It all works out.
Cody, what's on your wrist? So since Sam and I were talking about watches last night through text message, he's based in Chicago, right, Mr. Sam?
Yep.
So I've got my Bar and Sweat Vice Chrono on.
Nice.
Company out of Chicago. So plus I love it.
Yeah.
And it's
That thing's freaking cool.
Yeah, I love it. Super.
I need to
cool
find
a
a short audio clip with like a cyberpunk soundtrack, and every time you show that whilst on a wrist check, just hit the button and let the music play for about 3 seconds. I think that would be fantastic.
Tron soundtrack.
Yeah.
No, you know what you need? You need the Knight Rider.
Yeah.
Yes.
But do you want Kit, the nice car, or do you want car, not so nice Kit? But,
yeah.
I watched a lot of Knight Rider when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I don't think. I mean, who didn't watch Knight Rider?
It's true.
I have today I have my Grand Seiko SBGX 335.
Oh, those are beautiful.
Oh my gosh,
nice.
man. I freaking love this thing. But anyways.
Yeah, GS makes some amazing watches.
Oh, bro, it's so good. It's a 7.5-inch wrist. It just sits nice. Good daily driver. Get out and use it. But we're here to talk with you guys and talk about Forscher Watches and get to know you as watch enthusiast. It's a big thing that I know me and the boys, especially Cody and Alex. Alex can't be here today. He's out doing Alex stuff. If you watch the stream, you know what I mean. Shout out to Alex. I hope you're having fun out there in the middle of nowhere. But we're here to have a conversation, like Cody said, and to get to know the brains behind Forscher Watch, because we all know a lot of companies have people that are business people. But, it's nice to get a watch brand out there that has watch enthusiasts leading the charge of their company and to hear from them. I think it it endears, some of the watch enthusiasts to the company. So that's what we're here for. So Alex, or sorry, I'm firing on autopilot. Cody, Alex with better hair. Cody, take the lead.
I do have better hair. My hair. Hair is very important. Yes. All right. Okay, Sam, we'll start with you.
Yes.
Because you and I have been talking back and forth for a good couple of months now, I want to say, right?
Yeah.
Just talking about Forscher.
Yeah,
it's just natural, and that's what watch enthusiasts are about. Go ahead, please. Tell us a little about yourself. What first got you into watches? How long have you been collecting watches?
Yeah.
We'll get to how you met Emmett.
That's a fun one. So yeah,
it's a long and disturbing story.
So I got into watches, believe it or not, right after college. So I'm dating myself. This is 26 years ago, right? So despite these wonderful Asian genes, I am 50. So unfortunately, for Emmett, he goes backwards. He's 10, right? Anyhow, right after college, I worked at a radio station, and I was in the ad sales part because my background originally was in communication. And the sales guys were there, and they all had nice watches. Because imagine in the 90s, ad sales guys, this is kind of that bleed over from, the Wall Street time. So everyone that was in that type of sales and professional business made a lot of money. So all of them had very nice watches. Majority of them were, Submariner guys. And one day the sales guys stopped me and he goes, you should get a watch. And I said, well, they're expensive. He goes, but this earmarks a chapter in your life of where you are. And as you go, you get nicer stuff. So my first watch was I think it was the ADV Sector. If you remember those watches, the No Limit. I don't know if they're still in business or they've been rebranded. And it was a quartz watch. It was two-tone gold and silver. Again, 90s. So I don't know if I would get that now, but that was a 36 millimeter diver that they had, and that was my first nice watch. And as time progressed, it just I had a lot of G-Shocks and different things for daily work. Because one of the things I noticed through my life and work, because my background is in IT, we would go through all the server racks, and I'm telling you, if you walk through racks, you just bang into stuff. And I can tell you, those are soul-crushing moments when you hear a really bad tink, and you look down, there's this horrible scratch in the middle of your crystal. And so about 7 years ago, I got more serious into it because I just, for some reason, just something happened in the middle of the night. And as both you can probably relate, is that you're up too late and then you're clicking around and all of a sudden something resonates with you. And then you're like, wow, I should really buy this watch. And as it keeps going, one thing leads to another. And then next thing you know, the collection is growing. Sometimes not in the best direction, as Cody and I were talking, because I asked Cody, which ones were ones that he likes. And, those are kind of those defining moments where it really starts to show your personality of how and what your tastes are, right? So those kind of shapes you, because some people just follow the crowd, which is okay, right? Some people just don't know. And I think over time there's things that you'll find out about yourself. And I think that's kind of the beauty of watch collecting, in that sense where, this is what I enjoy. And there's a reason why, or something that brings you back, right? And it kind of gets us to where we are now, right? Which was, our first homage with the mill sub was all because of year 7. And this is when I say 7 years, not only has it been collecting, I was modding watches, and that's kind of how we met, or I met Doc, who's a horologist, Doc and Arthur, down in Savannah, where you live, Cody. And so those are things where you get something and you're like, wow, this isn't right? And a lot of, if you follow a lot of Seiko modders. Some things are 90% on, some of them are better than others. But I think the limitation comes when you're starting to put laser to metal, or you're shaping the cases, setting the crystals from different things because you're trying to get a dome look. So all these things kind of was an evolution to kind of where I came from, to the point of where you could release something decent. So it was about 2019 at the time. Again, working in IT, I have the most boring jobs compared to everyone here. Like, Emmett's a performer. Well, technically he's a lecturer, right? So he's the smartest one out of our group at the university. 2019, I'm working on some AI stuff for one of the fast food joints, which has golden arches, but we won't mention their name. It's just trying to figure out how to integrate a Siri and Alexa-esque device or AI into their order taking. COVID hits. It's really boring. Nothing is really fun. And, I'm sitting there and I have this pretty awful boss. So, what do? You have the other screen shopping for watches. And so I get a mill sub, and I looked at it and I was like, well, the movement's not just quite right. Because a lot of them will use like the NH3536 movement. And then one of the cardinal sins is the ghost pull. You got two pulls. You're like, hey, what's underneath this? So called Doc, and I was like, hey, man, this is the wrong movement. This needs to be corrected. And, so we're going back and forth. Then, Emmett and I have a mutual friend, Paul Leitner-Wise, formerly of Elderbear C. He's a watch enthusiast. So he and I were talking, and he goes, we should mark everything just like the old mill sub. And I was like, well, what's on it, right? So he did a bunch of research, and then found the original watch strap company, which is Phoenix. And it just kind of, we actually had something unique where it mimicked every part. Because if you look at the mill sub that's at Sotheby's or any other of the auction houses, I mean, they're north of 200,000, right? Even if I had 200,000, I wouldn't buy one. And it's not because out of ego or anything else. I'm scared of the provenance, right? So if you look at Perez Scope and all the other jazz, I mean, some people have been had for like $500,000 or whatever it happens to be. So that's where that piece falls in. And I think, the homage or people that have done re-releases of things, that's, I think, is a very safe space, right? It's something that you enjoy. It's something that, is well done if you're paying attention to detail. And so, for us, we welded the lug bars, and we got everything as close as we can. And that's kind of our first thing. Originally, I didn't think anything of it. I made one for Paul, one for myself. Then the next thing, I had 120 requests, and messages via Instagram. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. Right. And then, as we were backing up 6 months before that, Doc calls me and goes, actually we're in Savannah. He goes, you should start a watch company. I'm like, that is the dumbest idea. Like, nobody's going to buy a watch from me. Right. And look at where we are now. And so with that, we just started producing the homage mill sub. And that's kind of how, Emmett kind of jumped in to the middle of everything, because we met via his PTT company. So he has a company called 5-4, which if you guys are looking for custom radio equipment, I mean, there's only a couple. There's Disco 32 and his company, and they're both friends. And and he had rang me up from Ireland. He goes, hey, your order isn't right. I was like, oh, okay. I was just surprised that this guy's calling me. And he sorts me out, and it was very short, mundane conversation. It wasn't anything crazy, right? But I just kept ordering stuff, and over time, somehow we got on the topic of he wanted a mill sub, and that we were making the homage mill sub, and that's kind of how everything evolved. And in if any of you folks have dealt with Irish folks, they're very direct. So if you're looking for the feel good, your feelings are hurt, don't go to the Irish folks. It's going to be like they're as kind with a massage of a battering ram as they're like breaching your door type.
It's not that bad. It's not that bad.
Are you sure? Are you sure? I mean, it's not the best.
I am. No, I mean, sympathy up to a point, but if you're an idiot,
see what I mean?
Hey, Emmett, if it makes you feel any better, that means that I say 90% of the people in the military are 10% Irish. So you're not going to get you're going to get the initial sympathy from us, but after that,
the law enforcement household, so there is sympathy is lacking to a certain extent. Saying, you have a problem, we'll go fix it. You caused this, you fix it. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Good job.
So it was one of those things, and like he was very straightforward. He goes, "Listen, whatever you're working on next, I want in." I was like, okay, this is kind of odd. Like we had done a couple $1,000s in transaction of buying comm gear back and forth, and the other piece that I left out was that it was easy to freight forward stuff back to Ireland, because it was he would get a ton of stuff here and I'd pack stuff up. So at least we developed a simple relationship there, because a lot of the shipping, especially when he's sending small items, Emmett's huge into books, so it would have cost him a fortune. So all these packages came. Sometimes it's like, I don't remember ordering this stuff. I was like, oh, this is Emmett's stuff. Like
when he orders Hustlers vintage ones.
He has a lot of first print stuff. So Cody, if you and Jason, if you guys want to look at books, and we're talking, it's like 900. He'll send you guys a photo after the chat, but I mean, it's like a wall of books, and I think part of it is because of his research and whatnot. So so mind you, I'm getting all these things, so I get a glimpse into what he's into, and like I said, his big push was like, whatever you're doing, I'm in, right? I'm like, okay, and that's kind of how Forscher kind of started from that point. So as we were weaning off the mill sub to fulfill all the 180 orders, because we only had made 180 based on what was in the survival of what the original 5513, 5517 mill sub. So we kind of like mirrored that, and that was just coming to an end. And so one day I look in the account and he had wired money through. I mean, this is crazy, because mind you, our transaction has been, so he knew what my account was and everything else was sending, payments for comm. So I looked in there. It wasn't enough for me to live in Mexico for the rest of my life, but it was enough to buy a sailboat, but I don't sail. So here's the dilemma, right? So guy from Ireland sends me, money. And so I was like, oh,
totally legit.
Right.
Yeah,
I was like,
not suspect at all.
Right.
I wasn't flagged at all.
No. And so that was pretty funny. And I was like, okay. And we had met some few folks, and we'll tell you that later. I think Cody knows a little bit about it, but we won't mention until the deal's done. We had an opportunity to meet at SHOT Show. So, Emmett books his flight over to my house, and then we fly out to Vegas and kind of worked on our first commercial deal together, just try to lock down another.
In an Italian restaurant of all places.
Nice.
This is completely legit, obviously.
Right.
If anyone in the audience is going to pick up on anything, it's that Forscher Watches. It's cultured, highly cultured.
Yeah. Can we plug the restaurant? Ferraro's in Las Vegas. Amazing.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
So it was just so bizarre meeting him for the first time. Bearing in mind we never actually had a sit down, had a drink, face-to-face conversation, and we conducted our first round of proper business at a cigar bar in Skokie.
Yeah. Nice.
Sometimes that's all. That's where the magic happens.
Yeah.
Watch guys are cigar guys are whiskey guys are car guys, although hopefully not in that order. And gun guys as well. It permeates many levels, and so many. You might not have all of the same interests, but we'll have at least 4 or 5 out of the 6, and it makes it's instant common ground. And you can have a conversation with a person at a a conversation with a guy working in probably one of the finest hotels in Ireland, the Shelburne in Dublin. It's really, really nice. And he was checking me out, and he spotted the mill sub, and he started talking to me about it. And I haven't seen this guy since. But for that 5-10 minutes, we were having a conversation. Yeah. As I said, we would probably never meet
Emmett,
again.
real quick. We've heard Sam's whole story leading up, and then so like you're obviously the other part of this equation. So for you,
after ram raiding my way into the business deal, Sam had two options. He could embezzle the money, or he could cut me in. So he cut me in. Luckily, so I took a shot. Okay, but business is business. I don't have as salubrious a watch background as Sam's. My first watch my folks gave me was a Batman Seiko. It actually worked, but it was when Michael Keaton was Batman. So again, I'm showing.
Oh wow! Here. Jack Nicholson was playing the Joker.
Yeah, exactly, and I still have it, and I must get a new strap on it just to kind of bring it back. But all the way through, I mean, through high school and into university, I was rowing. I rowed for 12 years to a decent level, never international standard. Just wasn't physiologically built for it, but really, really enjoyed it. So I wore G-Shocks a lot. I had a GW10, and then I got a Frogman a few years later. But I'd always had that interest in watches, because through the 90s, my father wore a Tag Heuer, and then in 2001, 2002, he bought himself a two-tone mill sub, or a Submariner date. It's the gold and steel, but with the very, very deep blue dial and bezel. Okay. And it's funny. Like I'd always seen these watches, and watching Bullet as a kid with Steve McQueen wearing that very, very cheap Benros, which Sam was lucky he found me one before Christmas. Not a very expensive watch, 36 mil, very, very small, but Steve McQueen wore it. So had this kind of interest. And the funny thing about Dad still wears his Submariner, and it was his daily wear until from when he bought it until he retired 17 years later, or nearly 17 years later. He wore it on the job every day. Guys would say to him, like, we're going out hitting the house, what are you doing wearing a Rolex? And he's like, if I have a problem and the guy is that close to me, we have a problem.
We have bigger problems.
But when he joined the Irish Police Service back in the late 70s, they taught him how to fight. And for your American viewers, some of them might be aware, most of them probably won't be, but our police force is unarmed. So, there's a very, very small percentage of the entire force of around 14,000, only 2,000 carry weapons. And, you go out and you have to fight with your hands. How Irish is that? But he wore the watch. So I was constantly, around these really nice watches. So then I finished college. I'd applied to do a PhD, and thought, I'd like a really nice watch. So I was working for a year to save money to get started on that program. So I bought myself a Breitling Sky Racer limited edition. It was secondhand in immaculate condition. The guy had worn it 3 times from a great watch shop here in Ireland called Keen's Jewelers. They're a family-owned business. They've been around for a long time, and we had a family connection there through friends and whatnot. And that started my Breitling thing. So I ended up with an Navitimer recently, and it's that kind of gradual. Shiny things like a Magpie. Oh, I like this. But, I think kind of one of the important things is you can have champagne taste and a lemonade pocket. It's better to have that than be the other way around. Nice watches will stand the test of time, and we've all had some horrible watches. I've had some horrible G-Shocks, and I look back now, they're gone, and I go, what was I doing? Great watch, but just not for me. So it develops over time, and I have to be honest. I mean, like someone who's involved with a watch company, like Sam is a watch guy going back a long time. I've always liked watches. I've been around watches. I know the brands. I might not know as much about the inner workings as Sam would, and then definitely not Doc and Arthur, who've encyclopedic knowledge, as is their business, and you would expect. But over the last 18 months, and as long as I've known Sam, it's been constantly a learning curve of this movement and that movement, and this is smoother, and it's been great. And then you look at some very famous watch brands that have some new releases out lately, and you're going to go, why would I pay $20,000 for a watch with a $90 movement in it?
Or a puzzle dial Rolex.
And why is that crown guard so big? What am I buying into here? You're not buying into anything. You're just buying, I suppose, like the cigar market, a premium product that's not geared towards the working man, and not geared towards where these watches came from originally. that's not the market anymore. That's why, we have things to echo Nick Folks from London. The new World cigars have pushed in quite well over the last number of years because people can afford them, and they're just as good and are better. So that's when to bring it back around to Forscher and to dovetail with what Sam was saying. Forscher is about, like your patrons, it's law enforcement, it's first responders, it's military, it's, people who do, unusual jobs. And those of us, I work in an office most of the time. Being a university lecturer, that's my thing. I'm surrounded by books all the time. But we wanted the mill sub to be accessible to people, and we want the lines that we've got planned and the ones that have just launched and the ones that are going to launch before Christmas to be accessible to the people who wear watches to work and actually do work, as opposed to the guy who's sitting in the foyer of a hotel in Monaco who just wants people to see what watch he's wearing, and he doesn't care. He'll throw it in a bag and never wear it again. That's not what we're about, and the pricing reflects that.
Well, let's talk about the Mark II. So you go from producing the mill sub, right? And then that evolved into Mark II, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay, so talk that transition. Like, how did you? Because the mill sub is, from what I've seen, beautiful. Like, it's a true homage. Durability, it's built like a tank, and it will go the distance. Like,
yeah, Sam, do you want to jump on that before I do?
Transition from Mark II, because the Mark II, Sam, I've told you this 100 times. Like, I freaking love it. And what y'all did is just, like, it's beautiful. Like, it's simple, it's serves a purpose, and it's not like Emmett said, it's just accessible, but it's accessible to be used, whether it's going from the office to the boardroom to the gun range or jumping out of a plane to the patrol officer. Like, it fits the bill on so many check marks.
So the funny thing is that if you take a step back, right, when we first started, it was from the homage piece of it was what would have happened, right? And so if you look at the history of the sword hands, that was the MOD spec, right, of how kind of the 5517 was created, we're like, it's bizarre that they didn't carry that tradition on, right? Because that's a freebie, right? Think about, you got an established specification from the Ministry of Defense, like, continue on, right? But not to knock like Rolex in that sense, but they created Tudor, and you figured, maybe there should have been a division where it just kind of catered to military, right? Where they kept the sword hands and continue on that lineage. So when that started, we were like, you know what would happen in this alternate reality timeline, right? That if they carried on, what would that be, right? And so we reimagined of, taking it from the 5517 and knowing kind of the inner workings of how we got everything together, all the little details kind of evolved into the Mark II, because, you bring it a little bit into present time, right? And this is where you see the references of the drilled lugs, because that continued on to the Submariners into the early 2000s. And what ended up happening was we were like, okay, the drill lugs we have to keep, not because of anything else other than, it points back to that time, right? And the other thing was that this is why there is the tick marks that go all the way around to 60, right? That's another point back to the lineage of kind of how the 5517 was, because as you see later on, they started getting rid of it, and they stopped at 15, right? And that's a very normal, design for all the modern watches nowadays, right? And so we will forever keep the sword hands, because that's kind of where we come from. So you won't see anything different, right? With that. And the other aspect of it was, okay, what do you need to see, right? And just like you said, Cody, guys that are on the job, like, again, I have the most boring job. I don't care if it's dark, because I'm not looking at anything. But if it's dark, I'm sleeping, right? And so I don't have any reason to look at anything. But for you guys to look at a reference of something and like, hey, I just need it lit enough so I know what time it is, right? And or how much time I have left on the timer that you set, right? These are very basic things that we looked at. So that's kind of what we had taken from the Milsub into the Mark II. And with that being said, we had a dome sapphire crystal that's very seamless. So again, banging into stuff, it's the transition from the dome into the bezel. So when you get yours, you'll feel that it's a very smooth, seamless transition. It's part of it is protection piece of it that hopefully that'll glance off. I mean, nothing's perfect because the weirdest of accidents happen, right? We still kept the CWC, which is now the current supplier to the MOD, because Phoenix now is just they don't have a contract anymore. So CWC, Cabot Watch, out of the UK, and that's where we source all of our straps from, and that's how it'll ship. And that's kind of where everything kind of evolved into. Kind of the design parameters that you'll see. Anything that you'll see from us, which the next the one after the GMT that we'll release after this will be Swiss-based movements, and that will have the BGW9, right? So anything that you'll see in the C3, you'll notice is all the NH-based Seiko movements. The reason we did that was, we didn't want to exclude anyone. Like, you may not have the budget to go up to the 1,500 range, right? You may be comfortable where you saved up all your nickels and hard work that, $800 was the most that you could spend. And it's kind of, we're here for the working guy. It's not just first responders, it's just whomever, right? Because, watches are important, right? It's something that defines you versus, having the smartwatch. And I'm not knocking the smartwatches in the sense that they're useless, because they're actually very useful. I think in a lot of ways they're too useful, right? It's like, I don't need to get pings. If I miss your email, you either should A, called me, or B, if you couldn't call me, something's wrong, I'm not answering, right? There's so many factors. You don't need to be that accessible, right? And so that's kind of why we did what we did, was a simplicity. And another thing comes to the date complication, which we didn't want one, right? But as we're talking to folks that actually do real work for work, such as filling out reports, date's kind of important, so like, okay, those are things that we will hone in on and add things. And I think the key thing is, there's a portion where the little details that Emmett and I like, right? But that's great, but what about working with people that need stuff, right? And so when they have come to us and go, hey, I would like to see this, okay, those things are important, that you kind of have that type of interpersonal relationship with people in order to make something for them, right? Because that's kind of the special thing of what we do. Like, there's plenty of watch companies. There's watch companies that have come before us. There's watch companies that Emmett and I both love. And but the main thing is that we wanted that interpersonal connection, and that's kind of what we do. Just like when I was telling you folks about the watch is a marker, a chapter in your life. That's why the personalization is very important. It was like Emmett and I have been invited, air quotes, invited to probably 6 or 7 weddings. Right. And what that means is that, a guy like Cody was like, hey, I'm getting married on this date. I would like to have the watch. I'm like, no problem. We got you. Right. And so it's very personal. I'm the emotional one. Like, oh, this is great. Right. I'm so excited. I was like, and I get on my 1956 Smith Corona typewriter. I type out. It takes me 30 minutes to type notes. So if I was a typist in that era, I'd probably get fired. Right. So I type up a nice note. It goes to these folks that are doing, having their wedding or whatever, transition in their life that's important, because we want to be part of that, right? And that's the difference between, hey, we're just going to sell you something, right? And that's kind of the evolution, like I said, into the Mark II, because there's people like, hey, this homage watch with the acrylic crystal. I'm banging it up. This is like, it's really, really soft. Or some of the emails, it'll say, anything with me and fragile never go together in the same time. I'm like, okay, noted, right? And so this is kind of the evolution into that. You know, they're all input from people out in the of our buyers, you know.
Yeah, to cut in on that as well, the transition from Mark 1 to Mark 2. The Mark 1, as Sam said at the start, was never meant to be a full commercial project. It was meant to be a small run homage project for people, you know, for a couple of guys. I mean, I came late to the party as well to a certain extent, but with that, it has issues is the wrong word, but there's this thing like you don't swim in them, you don't swim with it, full stop, with the Mark 1. And that was one of the hard baselines for the Mark 2. Was like, this has to be diveable. Like, this has to be full range diveable up to, you know, 200 or what is it? It is 200 meters.
Yeah, 200 meters, yeah.
Feet. And, you know, we don't have a massive marketing budget like the watch companies that we all like. But there's little things that we've been able to do. And I suppose it's just to bring it in at this point. A friend of mine who's also a watch guy and a cigar guy, Ronan Barry's his name. He's from West Cork. He's a diver. Now, he's also a high school shop teacher, but he's a performance coach and a few other things, but he dives a lot, and he used to do a lot of recovery work for local law enforcement, particularly pulling people out of rivers after accidents and suicides and stuff. So he's a very accomplished diver. He's an instructor. He's diving the RMS Lusitania in 2 weeks' time, an officially sanctioned dive from the Irish Monuments Association, or whatever it's called, the department that monitors wrecks off the Irish coast. So he's going down onto the Lusitania. He's bringing the Mark II with him.
Oh,
so
nice.
Yeah, oh yeah, we'll have tested the watch, you know, in terms of the pressure stuff that we can do on the surface ourselves as part of the regulation process. But then it was like, well, you know, he's a tool watch guy. He uses his watch on a like, he's dived all over the place. You know, from German U-boats to, you know, ferries that have sunk, you name it, container ships, the works. Yeah. And it's like, well, this is an opportunity. So I said it to him over a beer, because this is where everything gets done. And he said, yeah, I'd love to take a Mark II down with me and see how it goes up on a proper legitimate dive on one of the most dangerous wrecks and one of the most historical wrecks off the Irish coast. That's on around the 18th of this month. And that for us will be, you know, apart from a marketing perspective, which it's really, really useful, it'll be really, you know, to use a cliche, the proof of the pudding for us, that, you know, here's someone who's actually doing the job and using the watch as the original would have been intended. Yeah, whether they're, you know, British UDT guys or Navy SEALs or whatever. Yeah. And that's the real truth for us. And it's a personal connection.
Yeah, I think you said something important that you talked about. Oh, sorry. When you talk about the marketing budgets, right? And the one thing I've been listening to you guys a lot since you've been talking the last half hour is, you know, it's apparent that you guys are bringing this from a pretty sound, and I hate to use the term logical, but like logical for usage point of view, right? And so, you know, guys like us that will get our hands on one of these watches, right? The gentleman that's going to go diving and do all that stuff, that word of mouth means more to, I'm pretty sure I can speak for Cody on this one too, means more to me than any slick ad that's going to come across my Instagram feed any day of the week. So like if Cody got his hands on one of these and was like, yo, man, this thing is built really well. And then I also have the information of, you know, I've heard Sam and I've heard Emmett speak about where they're coming from, their background, what they want to do, what they want to provide. Because you'll hear a lot of people be like, oh, well, it's not perfect. But yeah, bro, it's like their second watch. You know what I'm saying? Like let's have some perspective here, right? Like it's their second watch, right? And it's like, and we can go through the brands that people are saying now, quote unquote, are doing stuff, right? Like Christopher Ward, for example. They started off doing like some homage stuff, but you can tell they've taken their money that they made off their watches and reinvested it back in the company to start to make the stuff that they want to make, right? But you can count, like I know guys with Gen 1 Christopher Wards and they're built like tanks, right? So I think that's important. What Emma brought up is just for, you know, for our audience to hear is like, you know, they're getting getting these watches in the hands of people that are going to do the work, not the people that are going to go, you know, with really great lighting and get pictures taken. You know, this thing's going to go, it's going to do dives, it's going to do stuff, and then that can translate into whatever it is that we're going to do, you know. But for guys like me, like I've been retired. I'm pushing 50, Sam. You know, I've been retired for a hot minute. Cody's freshly retired. Yeah. But you know, it's kind of cool to see that Forscher's kind of trying to get their pieces in the hands of people that go do this work, right? Because I feel that's how you build real provenance. You build it on the wrist of people doing real stuff.
Yeah, and Jason,
Sorry, son.
Yeah. Also, what I was saying is, when we first started, there were just those folks like, hey, one thing I will tell you, we're very nice people, but the one thing that aggravates both Emmett and I is we don't like demands. Like demands just don't work well. They're like, hey, I need this watch by this time, and I'm doing this, and then Emmett clicks on it, like, oh, you're going to a Ferrari event. I'm like, no, go buy a Rolex. You don't. That's why kind of in the backstory is it's not we're trying to exclude people, but we want to make things for someone that matters, right? The Sky Racer that Emmett has, it's probably one of those dudes that wore it 3 times because he's got 50 different expensive watches, brought 10 at a time, right? It doesn't mean anything. And so, when you have someone that's like trying to make a wedding, or, there's a guy that's, having an important change of station, there's somebody that is embarking on a new career, like they want to earmark something. Those things are very personal to me. Like, I'm going to make your dates, right? But I'm not going to make your dates if you're thinking hey, I'm going on this, car run with the other guys. I'm like, okay, those are 10 people that I don't want to be friends with. You know what I mean? And sometimes when somebody asks, like, we have a new potential partner we're working with, and there's a few of their partners that are very big on YouTube, and they're in the car business. And when I say car business, we're talking like, high-end AMGs and Lamborghinis and different things. And my first thing I was like, is the guy a douchebag? That's like the barometer, right? And he goes, no, he's very nice. He just comes off weird. I'm like, oh, okay, no problem, right? He uses, and that's it, right? It's kind of the thing with Cody and Jason is like, hey, how is this guy? I'm like, yeah, the guy's really squared away. That's all I need, right? But if you're like, well, I'm like, yeah, there's no well, right? Because it just, you don't belong, right? And it's just like,
and it's not to say it's elitist in any way. It's not that. It's just we're a small business up to a point, and there's a certain element you need to minimize your problems. And I've been running my own small business, the military comms business, for quite a lot of years now, and I can not even just an email, but I just know there's going to be an issue before I can sense it. And we've had little issues with moisture and bits and pieces. And I have to say, of the 180 people that we've dealt with, or near 180 people that we've dealt with at this point, and a couple of them have become very close friends of both of Sam and myself. We get messages from them daily. We've looked after them out of our own pocket, because that's the obligation. We're not big enough to just go, oh yeah, we can just ignore these people, and you shouldn't anyway. But it's that you know what? Here's an RMA, send it back.
No, we cover shipping both ways. I don't care where you are in the world, but that's just the cost of doing things.
Because if you can't operate at that level and you can't bring that customer service, and as small business owners, you have to have the customer service. Yes, it might be a bit abrasive at times, but at the same time, it comes from a good place. And people, I think, nearly everyone we've dealt with in that respect, and it's been a small number, have been very, very not only accommodating, but when you know what, these guys they're doing it for themselves. And they're doing it for us as well, and they're willing to work with us, and we'll work with them as well. And that the proof of that was when we launched the Mark II on the website. Within the first 24 hours, I think nearly of all the orders, and Sam will correct me if I'm wrong here on this, I think at least 80% of those orders are all 180 customers.
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah, I even
go ahead.
When I saw it released, like I even texted Sam like, hey, like how did the release go? Like this is fucking legit. Excuse my language, but it's our show. Fucking awesome.
We did send out the chain mail letter to everyone that was on the mailing list, and even and the few people that got them kind of in duplicating back to I've already bought mine, straight away.
But like going back to that customer service thing, where what you just talked about, Emmett, like that's what matters in the watch world. Like that's what matters to the true people who like, oh, I don't care who makes it. Like if I can't talk to the person who designed it or tested it, like, what good is it for me? Like, of course, I want to take any watch, throw it outside, and have it get rained on, and be like, oh, it has a scratch now. I made a memory with it instead of like, oh my god, this has a scratch on it now. Like, how do I get it out?
Yeah. You have a number 25, John. If I mispronounce your name, sir, I apologize. John Chatton. John Chatton checking in.
One of the original folks, and a huge supporter of us. And it's guys like him that just has followed. And I'll tell you a really crazy story. So one of our guys that had bought the 180, he had been in a horrible accident. And this is just by no fault of his own. Like, he was just driving with his wife, and something let loose from a semi truck, and I think it was a pulley, and it came through his window. I mean, it wrecked him. And so he's sending me photos, and he goes, "When is the drop?" I'm like, "Are you insane? Like, get well for screw the watch." You know what I mean? And so, we're getting his watch out, quickly, because those things to me, like I said, like, they're personal. If you're willing to walk the walk with us, we'll walk it with you all the way to the end. Right. And
that's what matters. It's that personal connection that just.
And I get a little teary-eyed because, like I said, I'm the emotional guy in this whole thing, right? Because it's a love for things, right? And I
get the cringe then on the other end, because I'm a pragmatist to a certain extent, and there's no need to get this emotional about it. And it does sound like a sales pitch, and that's something I use when I'm lecturing. I say, look, this is not a sales pitch. These are the facts. This is what I'm telling you. This is how it's going down. This is real world or whatever. And it's the same with us, but it does sound like a sales pitch, but it's not. It's genuinely like the watch we did for, and it was a Bruce McLaughlin, his father's watch with the 45th Infantry Division engraving on the back. Ex-British Army guy, joins the US Army in the early 50s, goes to Korea. I think he did a bit in Nam in the early days as well, retires, and he still has that watch, and he wears that watch daily with him. And it wasn't our watch. It was just Sam took the project on as a rebuild for him, and the engraving with the 45th ID on the back. And it's absolutely amazing. But that's a journey in itself.
And here's the kicker of it all, right? Like, Bruce is his name. His father passed away when he was in high school, so he didn't know. Like, Emmett knew more about his father's liberation of Dachau. Was it Dachau, or was it? Well,
he was not Dachau, but that division. Dachau,
so that was the one. So Emmett knew more historically about that unit of his father than he did. So imagine losing your dad at in the beginning of high school. So you have very little connection, stuff that he didn't know. And Emmett was kind of explaining to him all of what his unit did, which is huge, right? And I said to Bruce, Bruce, you may have missed out on that point. And Bruce is probably in his late 60s, right? And later mid 60s. And I said to him, Bruce, you may have missed out that time with your father since high school, but this is a piece that every day you think about your dad because it's on the backside of the case back, and those things to him means the world, right? And I think those are the things when people ask us, and it's not like a ridiculous request because you have to go to the nightclub because you need that new one. Like, no, different company. And that's what's so fun for us on the passionate piece of it, because if I'm not emotionally connected to making something for you, it's not worth it, right? And I'm not saying the ones that I'm not connected to isn't important. I'm just saying, if it makes something unique for you, and you'll see one of the other ones on the IG where there was a I won't call who it is, but it just you'll see that he was an Air Force guy attached to, I think, 5th Group. Yeah. And, he was going through a really rough time. And Cody, hopefully you'll never experience this, but, I don't know if Jason has, but, when he got out, he felt really sad because, he left the pack. Right. And separation is a huge thing. And he was just having a real rough time. He went to work for a big tech company. And I was like, why did you do that? And I've worked at the company he's worked at before. And so I kind of understood. I said, hey, you should get some services and see about talking to your brothers and getting some therapy. And Amy designed something amazing for him that kind of like in like most people in your field, like some of them get survivor guilt, right? And I said, let's commemorate what's important, right? And he was going through a really rough time, and he goes, Sam, I took your advice. I kind of went and saw a few people. I feel better. I've much better. And he sends me, I think they went to Aruba or somewhere else with his wife and family, and they're really happy, right? And I think and I'm not saying, hey, just because that case back and something that Amy did for him, like was a turning point in his life. But if it was something that just sparks the first step into doing something, that's all it is, right? I'm not saying, hey, if you have problems, call us. We're going to solve it.
We will sell you watches, though.
Right. But those are the weird conversations that we have. That's not about me selling you a watch, right? It's just like, hey, I see someone that is going through a really hard time, and if I can put that glimmer of something else in your life that gets you to go to the first step. And like I said, there's a lot of watch companies. We're part of that community, but this isn't, we're not just about watches. It's about people, right? Yeah. On that list, I can tell you exactly what most of those people do. Some of the people have weird jobs that I don't ask because they go to some pretty bizarre addresses in Virginia. I'm like, oh, he does do that other stuff where these are the Cape Crusaders, right? That have night vision.
And Sam might want to actually make it to the end of today without being assassinated.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, we're gonna black out the whole thing.
Right.
So real quick, Sam, obviously the emotional component of the team, and Emmett. Emmett, I appreciate the pragmatic. I'm probably like a little bit of both. I have my emotional side and a little pragmatic. I mean,
I'll have a cry off screen later. It's okay.
Yeah. I'm inferring that, inferring Irish. My family's I'm Chicano man from Southern California, Mexican. So we have that whole romance thing and whatever. But we also like to punch people in the face. So my point is like I think it's important though for our audience to realize that about a watch company, because that's all the authorized dealers do for the bigger brands, right? The really good ones. You come in, they talk to you, and are you a Sam or are you an Emmett or are you a little bit of both? Because I've been to enough of them. So I've only been doing this for like 4 years, right? But I've been to enough authorized dealers where I know they're feeling me out. And they will, based on my conversation with them, steer me towards certain brands. And I don't get steered towards like Tag Heuer or some other stuff. I'm not going to, besmirch any brands. But I tend to get steered towards like some very tooly, practical, they're going to last a long period of time type timepieces, right? And I don't know if that's entirely true or not, but it's kind of what happens. But I think it's important for our audience to hear a brand like you guys talk about that, because it's nice to hear that there's a very practical side of this brand, right? Not that Sam's not practical. I'm sure you are practical, Sam. I mean, there's no way you get to be 50 without being practical.
It's in trouble on a regular basis.
Yeah. And I'm sure Emmett's passionate about the stuff he's passionate about. Yeah. But, to understand that all that's going into the design process, the build quality, the overall, image that you're trying to set for the brand, it's not elitist at all. It's just like, hey, we'd like our audience or our customers to kind of embody what it is that we're trying to produce. And if I'm off base with that, I mean, let me know. But I think that's what it kind of sounds like.
No, it's absolutely what it is. And it's kind of pushing one more point is that just like when you get steered, and that's why we're not trying to capture certain things. We may have pigeonholed ourselves in a certain very, tool watch oriented, very adventure based watch, and this is why, Emmett and I partnered up with Hewitt, which is our buddy Ian in Bristol, right? And Hewitt can make whatever stuff, that we don't make, because they can do a lot of the really fancy stuff. And, if Jason wants to have something nice, or Cody, for something that's just a special event where it's more dressy, you can wear some of our stuff with it, but the Hewitt stuff is just that. It's whatever it fills that we don't do, right? And I think that's a very genuine
one as well with Ian, which is the amazing thing about it. When you order something from him, it's a one of one. Like he will sit down. Wow. It's like he did a watch for my girlfriend, which I'm giving to her next week when we're in Germany, as I'm over there for work, and she's coming with. And it's amazing. It's a mother of pearl dial. 2 weeks ago, it did not exist. It was parts. It arrived yesterday. And it's
wow, that's amazing.
It's very simple. It's a Rolex-esque kind of design, the mid case and the bracelet, and the dial is it's got that iridescent mother of pearl kind of thing going on there. It's he did an amazing job. And like Sam said, when you're buying from Ian, or Ian just does unusual stuff, and it's and that's why we do a lot of work with him, and he does a lot of our more tweaky stuff. It's specialist. He doesn't. There's no kind of I don't know that'll cost a lot of money to do that, or I don't know that's only one. I want to be doing 500 of them. It's we're not about that. And
Oh, we have a question from the audience real quick for Emmett or Sam. Justin from Recon Team Watch Blog on Instagram. Justin's a friend of the pod and just an IG friend in general. He's just asking if they're doing enamel printing.
Yeah, so the enamel printing, so that's I'm glad he brought that up because Cody and I were talking about that via text just less than 24 hours ago. So
we text back and forth a lot.
Yeah, so we do print a lot because that Ian handles, like Emmett said, he does a lot of the special pieces, and printing was one of the main things that he does. It's just amazing. And so we're getting another delivery of another printer, hopefully in the next 2 weeks. The Brits don't move very fast, so, unlike here, we're like, hey, this will be here tomorrow. Right. So anyway,
unless it's planting a flag somewhere that they should.
Right.
sorry. Just historical jokes.
No, you're not wrong.
Yeah. So the Dow printing is something that we do, and kind of the one of the projects that we're gonna kind of push forward is the Coventry Custom Shop, which is basically we can do all the custom printing of dials, whether it's a restoration that you need. So the enamel printing that is one of the things that we are able to do, but primarily the new technology that's there. It's all polymer based, right? Because that's what the medium that comes out of these prints are doing. This is the same thing that Bamford does. This is the same thing that Titan Black does. The one thing is that these printers are extremely expensive, so we kind of pride ourselves in that because it kind of puts us away from the regular guys in that respect where we can do things that other people can't, right? And the piece of again, it could be something that's wrecked that we're trying to do, or there's something that you may not like, right? Just like you had mentioned, when they steer you to Tag Heuer. Now I like Heuer. Tag Heuer, I have mixed feelings. Some things I'm like, oh, this looks really great, but can you just black out that tag in the front, And so, but that's one of the fun things, right? That we can read out certain things, and one of the fun things is if you have something old from your grandfather that the dial is really wrecked, and some people like that look, but some people may not, right? And so that's kind of one of the things that we're going to embark on is a lot of the restoration pieces, because as you can see, like those Dunhill lighters that we have, those Cartier and DuPonts, it's kind of the stuff that we want, that in that bespoke piece where we're bringing you something that's unique. Not only it's just a watch, because part of it is all about the craftsmanship.
Yeah, you're going to say
absolutely. And I think I was talking. Yeah, it was last night. You and I were talking. Like, I've always brought the question up to all the guys in AWWC. Like, think of, if you had your watch collection, right? Think of a daily, evening, and cocktail watch, right? Hopefully I get to see a sneak peek of the GMT, maybe. But like the Mark II, in my opinion, in the mill sub, like for me personally, I would have no problem because of the dial. I could put a bracelet on it, right? And rock it, and it works. And what you guys are doing is just phenomenal for how small y'all are. I would love to see y'all at Wind Up. I think y'all would be very successful there if you ever can make it to Wind Up and have a booth. But it's just phenomenal. Like, I'm just stoked to see where y'all are going and what y'all are doing, because you're taking that personalization, that one-on-one connection with the customer or customers, and it's like, this is what matters.
I'm gonna tell you right now,
people really truly care about is yes, like, okay, my Omega Seamaster, for example, I love it. Like, I love it, but I can't go and talk to someone in Omega about it. It'd be like, oh, who are you? But yet I could come and talk to Sam, you, or Emmett, and meet Doc in Savannah and be like, hey, let's have a drink and like, let's just talk shop.
Yeah.
And
you'll love Doc. He's just
and that's where connections and personal friendships matter in life, because it's just amazing what things can do.
I can't go into a massive amount of detail about it now, but one of the clients that we met in Las Vegas last January, like Sam got tied into a meeting, shall we say, for most of the day. So I got left on out at the Pro Gun shooting range in Boulder City on my own with JB, a friend of ours, ex-Navy guy, and hanging out with the guys. And it was literally 6 or 7 dudes sitting at the back of a Ford truck with a load of cigars, shooting pistols and talking about all kinds of stuff. And I'm the only non-military or law enforcement guy there. It was a leveler immediately. Nice. And I mentioned one of the guys by name Brad, who's a good buddy and a good friend of the company's, but also a personal friend. And we were just chilling out, talking about watches and guns and all kinds of different topics. It was it was really, really good, and it was that kind of, well, I know these people. If I have a problem, I can phone them up and say, look, can we do this or can we do that? And that has spiraled into the next project that we're currently on.
And there are very, very few brands in the industry right now that are like that. Are few and far between. That's just what matters to me, in my opinion. Like having that personal connection with a brand that cares so much versus, hey, I want you to wear my watch, and that's it. Like there's no connection afterwards.
Kind of, to piggyback on what Cody's talking about. So we missed each other at New York City Windup in 22. So Cody and the guys were there, and I was there with my buddy T. And for some reason we just missed you. We didn't really know each other yet, but we missed each other. But my experience was, you walked into Windup, and obviously one of the main sponsors was Zodiac. So they have Mike Pearson. He's a friend of the show. We have a relationship.
Great interview, by the way.
Oh yeah, Mike's a great dude. But he's the first guy you see when you walk into Windup, right? So he's like in full 50 caliber rack mode, just going to town, right? And then my buddy T, who's pretty much new into watches, we're cruising around. We were fortunate enough to have press access. Thanks a lot, Mike. Thanks a lot to the Windup people that hooked us up. And there was some brands like Islander Watch, super down to earth. Ryan and Mark, they were shooting the stuff. The Formex guys were super down to earth. And there were some other brands, but there was a couple of brands, I'm not going to name any brands, where we went up and talked to the person. They had no earthly idea about their own watches on the table because you could tell the person was hired to be there or they just didn't care, right? And so my buddy, who was like an active duty naval officer, this guy surfs and wind boards and, has a farm and like raises pigs, like all this craziness. He was interested in that brand until he met that person. He's like, I'm never buying a watch from them. And it was like that, bro. And this is a guy, Naval Academy grad, son of a Naval Academy grad, grandson of a Naval Academy grad, submariner, who instantly made that decision, like, I'm not buying a watch from that company. All because of the person they chose to have at that table. Because he understood the context of the moment. Like, this is Windup, New York City. You're a somewhat large brand, and you have some herb at the table. And you know what I mean? Like, so to back what Cody was saying, like, I really feel like if you guys did go to any Windup event, this is going to lead into Justin's question down there in a second. Just by talking to you and the people you would have up at the table, I feel like you'd endear some people to your watch brand rather quickly. Especially, Sam waxing poetic and Emmett getting down to business and talking the brass tacks about the thing. But that leads into Justin's question, which is, will you guys be at the British Watch Fairs in September?
Not yet. There's a few things that we're planning to do. I think I think the Red Bar in Bristol will probably be our first thing because, and it's small. It's kind of like everyone that's small or actually established like Vermont does a little setup there for everyone else. But that's probably what we'll do first because that is where Ian lives in Bristol, UK. And it's very simple for us to kind of get our feet wet. Because here's the thing, the ultimate goal, and people go, oh, we'll make, whatever number it is. Like our goal has been established at 2,500. I want to get to that 2,500 number and be comfortable, right? Because at that point, I can service people when they need things. Because once it gets so big and you're in nothing wrong with being carried at Macy or Harrods or anything of that nature, but you kind of lose that piece, right? And Jason, to parlay on your friend there, I mean, there are things that I bought, I'm not great, but one of the things that I love is, musical instruments like guitars and amps, right? Mm-hmm. I've had some custom made amps where back in the 80s, unless you were in a major big band, they're you're not going to get any of these support from the major manufacturer, the boutique builders, right? So I've had amps made, and once you met the owner and they're just a complete tool, I've sold stuff, and it's not because I'm so it's like, if I have to deal with this, I got to deal with this guy forever. I'm like, no way. And and for some other guys, they resonate well with him. Like, here, guess what? It's Christmas. Like, just trade me the other amp that I like, and you can have this one, right? And it's just, and that's the part of the connection. Now, why they put that person there, sometimes it's just a sale thing. And you know what? Some people are perfectly okay that once they look at something nice, like, okay, fine, I really don't care what their personality is. But sometimes it's a little deeper if you need something, right? And that's kind of the importance of why we have to connect with people. And I think, like I said, when you hit about 2,500, it's not a difficult thing to be accessible. Like, watching your Mike Pearson interview. I mean, I had no idea how he was. At least you guys had seen him earlier on at the windup, but it really illustrates to us of, people that we should follow in those footsteps. That it's a large company that you can still give that personal attention to, and the accessibility.
Yeah, absolutely. And last week, I go to dovetail with our lighters, the ones that we've had refurbished in Chicago. They're currently on sale at the Decent Cigar Emporium in Dublin. It's probably it is the best cigar shop in Ireland, and we've got a good relationship with the team there. But we go to their events once a month. They do a cigar night, so that you buy your ticket, you get a couple of cigars, you get a gift bag. There's a whiskey or a gin that's been paired with the smokes, and we've been to the last 3 of them. And the owners are people who are actually directly related to the owners of the cigar companies.
Oh, wow.
Cigar companies have actually been there. So I remember, and a good someone who's become a friend of ours, Melissa Merifel from the Merifel family, was at the second last event. We sat down and we had a drink, and we talked cigars, and we had a couple of cocktails, and it's a very, very personal connection. And if we were to do wind up, we wouldn't need to hire anyone, because we could get one of you guys to come and go on our pitch, or I'll bring a couple of from Ireland with me. We could bring Brad or Ron and Barry with us, put them on. They're friends of ours. They wear our watches, and they're actually watch guys as well. You could go away for an hour and have a cup of coffee and not worry that someone was absolutely shipwrecking your deal. Why would you outsource that? And at the size we're at, as Sam says, the 2,500 number still accessible. Even if we go over the 2,500, which is very likely, I don't think either of us will be comfortable, because there's a certain element of OCD and control about the pair of us.
Absolutely.
And the way we work so well together. I personally, because it's my face and it's our name, and we're a registered company in the Republic of Ireland. We're a business, but also to really trust someone. Like, I'm not saying some dude out of high school who's looking for a paycheck isn't good enough or anything, but like, would you trust them with this kind of business? No, you can't do that unless they were a watch guy and you knew that. So
you guys take ownership of your company. I mean, that's we understand that. Both of us having military background, right? Like you have to take ownership. You can't like you said, you can walk away to get a cup of coffee, but that walk away for a cup of coffee better not be 2 weeks. It needs to be walk away to get a cup of coffee, come back, and you trust but verify, right? You expect what you inspect. We could do the million cliches about it, but they're cliches because they're true. Like, you have to do it. And
the bottom line is, we started this with our money. This is not a loan. Like, we had to get money from places. I part funded my in from my other business. I have to account for that. We've all got bills to pay. It's a different thing. It's not like you're working for one of the big watch companies and it's your salary and you're paid regardless. If something doesn't go right, or if there's a mess up, or if a watch fails or something, that's got to be replaced somehow. That's coming out of your end, because that's the right thing to do, and that means you don't get to buy something the next month, or that's a little bit out of your holiday deposit, or whatever the case may be.
Well, guys, we try to usually trade. Oh, go ahead, Cody.
Y'all are going from a diver with the Seiko movement, which people love them, hate them. I love them because A, they're tanks, B, there's parts everywhere. C, they're easily serviceable.
Yeah.
And D, they last forever because they're built like tanks. There's a reason for that. So you've got a diver. Y'all said earlier in the show, moving to some Swiss movements. What is next for y'all?
So the GMT, the NH34 GMT is next. And so that was originally what was coming out right after the Homage mill sub. And what's funny is, again, to us, everything's about details. So, and this isn't knocking any other watch brands, but I find it funny when you have a GMT. Technically, all GMTs should be 96 clicks. And you're like, well, why 96 clicks? Because there's quarter hours. Think about what is the most adventurous thing somebody does. And this is, of course, my opinion. It's going to Everest. Where's Everest? In Nepal. Where is Nepal on the GMT? It's a quarter-hour country. Think about that, right? So I won't name the brand, but there's a very famous Nepalese climber that summited all these, all the peaks.
All the peaks.
And, and he's sponsored by a watch company. Think about it. He's from Nepal. And you know what? The company of the watch he wears is not on the quarter hour. Kind of funny, right? So
I know the climber because I used to be a climber myself. Rock Army sent me in Alaska for 3 years, did Rainier. So I do know the climber who you were talking about. Do you know the watch brand you are referring to? So yeah.
Funny, right?
Okay.
Yeah. But I mean, again, they're a big company, and I'm thankful that he's with a company that gives him money because that fulfills his dream. Like, can't knock it, right? But I just think it's that little detail, like, hey, he's from that country. Maybe we should put his country on that click. Just saying,
absolutely.
Right? At first, when we were engineering it, we're like,
Sam messages me in the middle of the night. It was like 3 a.m. I'm in Dublin, and he starts going on about clicks, and I was like, "What are you talking about? Why are we talking about bezels? It's 3 a.m." And then he explained, I was like, "That's a really good idea. I tell you what, I'll talk to you when I'm awake."
Yeah. And but if you really look at the history of Greenwich Mean Time, back in the day, they were like all over the place, like. If it wasn't for the U.S. standardizing, I mean, you would have these weird countries that are all on their weird hours. Like, I think if you look at, the Soviet Union or the former Soviet Union, they had a bunch of different time zones, right, within their country. And so the main thing is that, it's just, if you're looking at it, you need to find out where you're going to and then where things are, referencing back to your home, right? And I joke with guys where we have a list of the people that canceled. And here's the thing: if you want to cancel a watch, it doesn't hurt me, but please, for the love of God, do not tell me my wife won't let me. No joke, Cody. They will send me, wife will not let me buy it. And I looked down, and I was like, you know what? I need to forward this to the Man Card Association of America to get your card pulled. Like, you should tell me that, hey man, I had $10,000. I just got stuck up at the 7-Eleven. They beat me half to death. I couldn't afford the watch. I'm like, you know what? At that point, I'm going to send you a watch. I'm like, hey, man, I'm sorry you got beat up. I'm like, man, you recovered fast.
Really? That's all you got to say to get a free watch? Because I'll log off real quick. I'll log off right now, go down to 7-Eleven, and just start punching myself in the face. And
I can
be
go
like,
in some
damn, someone beat me up.
So.
Right. We want video footage, and we want to see you getting shanked as well.
No, but it's just weird, right? And so
it's like that show back in the day, The Shield, which wasn't an amazing show, but it was kind of good for the first season or two. But there is a shit list.
Yeah.
Exists.
Yes.
So we have those guys. Not a shit list, but just like bizarre, right?
You got 10 times Sean, who just ordered his Mark II.
Oh, awesome!
Shout out to 10.
Let me just
I hope it's 10 times Sean.
Here.
Yeah.
Let's just see.
Yeah, and so the reason we have that list is that part of it was when we're making the GMT was like,
just got your order, dude.
Oh yeah,
nice,
outstanding. Thank you.
Yeah, so part of the reason I said the sales part of selling it to your wife is like you see the GMT dial where the red hand is, you circle it and goes, this is where you are, and this is where I am. So when I always look at that red hand, I'm thinking about you, right? And it's just like, oh, That's a good one, right? Like,
I was also a matchmaker in his spare time. You can tell, right?
Yeah. I'm fortunate. My wife has her own low key watch collection. She has a Mondane World Time.
Oh wow,
it's insane. She's got some other cool pieces, but that one is really really snazzy. But anyways, real quick. So we try to keep this to an hour, guys, and I actually don't want to like have you pop anything. Like we'd like to have you on for future episodes, right? And if we do like 2 hours of talking here, there might be less to talk about next time. Forscher always has an open invitation to come on, as far as I'm concerned. But always. Cody, do you have any parting questions that you like to ask the guys before I let them get their last nuggets in?
Where can people find you all at?
Emmett?
Well, you can find us on Instagram, and we've got 2. We've got the European one, which I run, and Sam's one. They're very distinct in their own way, but we try not to duplicate content. We have the website, and you know, when and if anyone's watching, like when you message either of us on or message the Instagrams, it's not someone else there; it's us. You're talking. Nice. You're talking with one of us, and the same with the email. You're talking to both. It's like a. I'm not into sci-fi as such, but it's kind of like the Borg. We're kind of one. It's a system. It works for us. So that's where you can find us anytime. And you know, if we don't get back to you right away, we will. There is a time difference, but we're always available. And particularly for custom stuff. And if anyone has any ideas, unit watches or whatever, we're out there. That's what we're here for.
Awesome. Sam, got any parting shots?
No, thanks for having us. And Cody, you'll see the GMT come out. Give it about a couple weeks. Doc just got everything in, and so he'll be putting one of the very initial prototypes together. And yeah, we'll have to do that.
Yeah, can I have one of those? That'd be great if I could have one of those.
You just got to go down to 7-Eleven and get beat up.
Right. That's funny.
That's
we don't have that. We'll have to find local
to Savannah, and Doc can give you one, and first round will be on me.
Yeah, we'll have to go down to Common. That's actually one of my favorite spots. So
you guys let me know. I could fly down there real quick.
Actually, Jason, what part of California are you in?
I'm in Virginia. Actually.
Oh, okay. So I'm
on the East Coast, EST or EDT, whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
Yeah. I could skip a rock over to where Emmett lives.
Yes.
Across the ocean.
7 hours away. It's not that far.
Chump change, bro. It's chump change.
Yeah.
I used to do that stuff in my sleep, so. But well, hey guys, I just want to say, you know, from government cheese time, I really wish. I know it's killing Alex. I know he's in the middle of nowhere. He's crying, you know, unicorn tears. He's so sad. He's crying into his MRE or something. He wished he could be here, but from the bottom of our hearts at government cheese time, we always appreciate it when brands can come on and talk, share their stories, share what they're about. And I know Cody appreciates it. For everyone that tuned in at home, thank you for tuning in. I hope I got to everyone's questions good enough. We're still working that out, so just bear with us as we do that. But I invite everyone to go check out Forscher Watch Co. or Forscher Watch, and hit up Sam and Emmett. And we hope to have you guys back on again. And
absolutely,
thanks to everyone for tuning in.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Afternoon, everybody.
All right, take care.